There's been a lot of talk that this is the end of men. That was the cover story in an Atlantic magazine article. We've been told man up and man down, and women are doing well. There's absolutely no doubt about it. They're graduating 60% of them, or 60% of the college grads are women. They're getting more master's degrees, more doctoral degrees, more law degrees. They're taking over in many, many respects. And yet, I think this is the best time in the world to be a boy growing into a man. And that's not a message you'll hear often. And there's a few things that I think that you can do that will really take advantage of this opportunity to be a man in this day and age that we're in. First of all is to realize how absolutely lucky you are. Now I have to take you back a little bit to my own father. He'd be a grandfather for many of you in this room. But in my dad's case, he didn't see any of his children born. He wasn't allowed in a delivery room to see that happen. He barely ever got to a baseball game of mine because of work. Never saw my sisters act in plays or in choirs, or my younger sister play ball unless it was on a weekend. He was always a bit distant because men were the cerebral types. They had to be in control. They managed everything. They set the rules. There wasn't a whole lot of humor from my dad or most of the dads on my block. And maybe most important of all, he had a total burden economically. It was all on his shoulders. He had to stay in the job that he had with 7 kids. My mom had no college degree. She had to take care of the children at home. He was stuck there. Couldn't make a career change, couldn't spend more time at home, couldn't take a sabbatical. He had to pound it out week after week after week for 45 years until he could finally retire. That's not the age that you belong to. That's not the time you've grown up in. You have total choices before you. You can function as your fathers did or your grandfathers did and be the main breadwinner. You can split the job with your wife. Or, of course, in this day and age, you may have a male partner. You can work for a time and then do something else. You can have one career and shift to another career. It's truly an extraordinary time to be a woman or a man. And the women see this all the time and celebrate and want to grab those last pieces of turf that they haven't been able to get, understandably so. They want to be the CEO and they want to be the president. Still, men have extraordinary options they never thought they had. Here's the second thing I would invite you to consider, that you really need, we need as men, to recognize the incredible costs of being in the male box, of being straitjacketed in an old-fashioned gender role of what it means to be a boy or what it needs to be a man. Women have busted out of their box. They no longer feel like they have to be pretty. They have to be seen and not heard. They have to nod when men talk. Now, they busted out of that. They don't think they have to be at home. They don't have to be the only ones raising children. But men are still so much in the box. And let me tell you how the box shows up. Who do you think commits suicide in greater degrees, men or women? You might think women are more depressed, and the numbers of people reporting depression are women. But across the globe, men commit suicide at rates from 3 to 8 to 9 times more than women do. In the United States, the ratio is about 4 to 1. 4 times more men, obviously desperate, obviously at wit's end, and not knowing how to cope. By the way, there's one country in the world where women commit suicide at a higher rate. Can you guess it? That's right, it's China, where number 1, you can't necessarily believe their statistics, and number 2, women are still kept down to such a significant degree. But look at the other ways that being a man affects us. Twice the alcohol abuse rate, twice the binging on college campuses, twice the alcohol abuse among men as adults than women. 15% of boys, that's 1 in every 6 boys, will be serving out-of-school suspension during middle school. 1 out of 6 boys will act out in a way that they have to be kicked out of school for a period of time. The ratio of special education, 2 boys for every girl. The ratio of learning disabilities, 2 boys for every girl. The numbers of high school graduates, boys, only 2 out of 3. Girls, 3 out of 4. We can do better with both groups, but think about that. 1 in every 3 boys in an age of a knowledge economy are not graduating from high school. Do we know? Do we care? Think about it. Think about the degree to which women have stood up for girls and for women. And now tell me, name a man anywhere who's standing up for the plight of boys. Some concern for African American boys, thank goodness, who are incarcerated at tremendous rates, who are raised in homes with no dads so often. But where is the outcry about what's happening with boys and men? If I told you that 10 times as many girls were incarcerated as boys, what do you think would happen? The papers would go crazy. It would be on the cover of Time, on the cover of Newsweek, certainly on the cover of Parent Magazine, of Working Mother, of Vogue, and of Cosmopolitan. But the fact is, 10 times as many people incarcerated are male. But where is the examination of this? Where's the outrage? Where's the indignation? Where's the question? How can this be happening? Why are we allowing this to happen? Meanwhile, what's happening? So many of us are so sedated by the Miller Lite commercials, where we sit there and say, I la 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 la, because the man can't say the words, I love you. Do you see a connection here between what I would call a kind of emotional retardation, an emotional stunting, that we laugh at ourselves in the form of Bart Simpson, in the form of PETA on The Modern Family, that we laugh at men left and right, that we go to the movies with the Luke Wilsons and all the other losers out there, and we laugh at how Ben Stiller is such a bumbling idiot and such a wimp. We laugh at these pictures, and yet look at the results of them in terms of men's inability to cope with the emotional side of their life. So I think what we all owe to ourselves and to each other is open eyes at the realities and the facts of what's happening to men, and a willingness to do what men were supposed to do from the beginning of time, which is to protect our people, to stand up for our own, to be concerned about our boys and, of course, our girls, but not to say things like innocent women and children. So what were the boys and the men? Innocent women and children died. What were the boys and men? And yet we have these incredible double standards and haven't come to the fore, haven't stood up to protect our own people. So the third point I want to make to you is choose to be a whole man. Choose to be a whole man. First of all, pursue self-awareness at every chance you get. Take every class they offer you that will help you to understand your whole human person, and not just what's caricatured on ESPN or on late-night comedy. Take every psychological experiment you can take. Take the Myers-Briggs, take the Enneagram, take the colors. If you get a chance to do Outward Bound, go do Outward Bound. Do things that get you into a place that's outside your comfort zone. Don't go move back in with your parents. Go somewhere else. Go to New Orleans and work in a school. Find a job somewhere where you can subsist, but where you can be an adventurous man, where you can go out into the wild of the world. Don't crawl back into your mom and dad's bunk bed where you acted like a 5 or 6 year old child. Recognize and reject the media-generated messages that say you're a two-dimensional, beer-drinking, sex-seeking moron. There's much more to you than that, and explore those sides of yourself. And most important of all, perhaps, beyond self-awareness, is to focus on communication, especially talking to your boys, talking to the fellas, talking to the homies, that you got to find a way to be a whole person and to say, don't put me in the box, right? Don't put my sister, my wife, my mother, my daughter in a box. Don't put me in a box. I'm not in a box. I have emotions, and I want to talk about those sometimes. Don't be afraid of those softer emotions. You know, the greatest heroes of all time felt things like grief and sadness, and believe me, they felt fear. Heroism and courage were overcoming fear, not having fear. So we need to get in touch with some of those emotions that will allow us to relate to people. Little clue here, guys. Women are looking for this. They're not looking for Luke Wilson, some dummy to sit on the couch and scratch himself and open up another beer and surf channels or play Nintendo. They're looking for a different kind of person, a more complete person. And guess what? The workplace is looking for a more complete person. Somebody who can deal with diverse elements of people around a table. Somebody who can build collaboration. somebody who can not know as well as know, who can bring other people into the conversation. Those things only happen when we begin to be candid, when we can begin to talk about the things that we feel, the things that are traditional male things like strength and competition and standing up for a principle, but also some of these other things that used to belong to the home, that there's sadness and there's tenderness, there's even silliness, and these can be rich emotions when you're free to live them rather than living in the box. So I invite you to get out of the box. Get out of the box for your own good. Become a more whole person. Nurture and cultivate all that's within you, the artistic and the poetic, as well as the athletic and the competitive and the intense and the protective. Those are great things. But hone them all. Have them all. Because you know what they're saying to the girls? You can be everything. You can do it all. You can be a mom and you can be the CEO. I say the same thing to you, gentlemen. You can be a dad and you can be a CEO. And you can be a dad like the dad perhaps you were lucky enough to have, or the dad that you're going to invent. And what lucky kids you'll have if you live out that life.